Welcome back, painting friends. Today we're going to paint a picture of some girls walking in the rain. Very simple colors. I've got white, teal, I've got a bright pink, and then I've got a darker pink. All I did was add some purple and some red to my bright pink, and that's how I got that darker pink color. Gray and black. I always have my favorite 4 brushes in my studio. I've got my 1-inch flat brush, my 10-6, and 1 round brush. Don't forget to have a rag and a water to keep those brushes clean. So let's get started. I'm going to start off with adding some white paint just right here to the center of my canvas, kind of going back and forth, almost in a tall rectangle. So now that the center of my canvas is colored, I'm going to go ahead and take that same 1-inch flat brush. I don't even have to wash it off. I'm going to grab a little bit of gray and a little bit of teal. Okay, so I've got gray and teal on there, and I'm just going to kind of start brushing those colors in, letting them start to mix with that white, where I can see that the center is definitely the lightest color, but the edges are getting a little bit darker. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to wipe my brush off totally, and I'm just going to bring all of those colors in together, okay? This is where I really want them to kind of finish mixing, keeping those edges a little bit darker, the inside a little bit lighter, but all the colors are going to just kind of come together. Now I am going to go ahead and start to take my brush and do left to right brush strokes all the way up. Last thing I'm going to do is go really long left to right brush strokes. Really kind of smoothing out those edge lines, bringing it back down to the base. That's perfect. This time I'm going to take some gray and a little bit of black paint. So a lot of gray, a little bit of black. And I'm just going to go right here, down here in the center, make some lines that go left to right, kind of filling in some of this ground space of where the girls are going to be walking. I'm going to go ahead and set my brush in my water, and I'm going to grab my number, I think I'm going to do my number 6 round brush. I'm going to grab my number 6 round brush. I'm going to use some watered down black paint. Anytime I like to make skinny lines with black paint, I like to water it down just a little bit. The paint I use is really thick, so this just helps it go on a little bit smoother. I'm going to add a couple of trees in my picture. So for the trees that are in the background, a little bit further back, I'm going to use some gray and black, mix those together, and I'm just going to make them very tall, skinny trees, kind of look like letter Y's as they kind of squiggle their way down, maybe have just a few branches on them. We're not going to give them a lot of detail, okay? So you can make just a couple of those tall, skinny letter Y trees with a mix of gray and black, and as I'm doing this, I'm almost not even letting my paintbrush touch the canvas. It's a very, very, very light touch of my brush. From there, I can go ahead and take my black paint, so just my regular black paint, water down a little bit, and I'm going to make my more prominent trees. So these are going to be a little bit fatter. They're going to have a little bit more definition to them, but as I'm pulling these colors down, I'm going to see some of that gray and teal kind of peek through with the background, and that's what I want. I want to be able to see those grays and blues. Anytime I add in a branch, I like to start at the tip of the branch and kind of squiggle it down to the branch it attaches to, and then bring it down to my tree. That way, it kind of has those lines, when those lines in the paint mix, those lines really start to create a nice uniform tree. I do want to make sure that my base of my tree is getting quite a bit fatter than the top of my tree. We want our trees to be stable trees, okay? So you can add as many or as few trees as you want, remembering that we are going to put some flowering tree flowers on these. Okay, we're gonna let this background dry. When we come back in, we're gonna add our girls and our flowers. With a dry background, let's go ahead and lay out our walking girls. Now you can choose any color you want. I'm really into that teal and pink right now, so that's kind of what I'm gonna go with. So I'm gonna grab my number 6 round brush and some teal paint. And I'm gonna start with the little girl first. Again, change your colors if you want to. But just above that ground line, I'm gonna make a straight line across. And I'm just going to make a skirt. Go ahead and fill that in with that gray paint. Teal paint. I'm going to add a little bit of white paint to it. Just kind of on one side. And then the top of hers, I'm going to make that dark pink color, okay? So right here, I'm just going to go kind of out at a little angle and straight across. And I'm going to lay out where my umbrella is going to be next because I'm not really sure how much of the top of this body I'm going to need to add on there. So I'm going to use white paint and that light pink color. So I've got white and light pink on here. And right over here, I'm going to just make a curved line. So I think I probably want it lower than that, right above her shoulder. And from that curved line, I'm just going to turn it into an arch. Continuing with that pink and white. Just going to kind of fill that in. So you'll see what I did was I just added some white over here so that I've got a little bit of a highlighted area. And as I go over, there's going to be less. But what I'm also going to do is I'm going to kind of bring some areas down with like a little bump. So I want it to look like the bottom of an umbrella. And on the other side, I have just a little bit of teal that I'm kind of mixing in with that pink just to give it a little bit of a shadow effect. And kind of bring those colors back together. Those little bumps in there. All right, for her legs, I am going to go in with that black paint and just put 2 small little legs coming down. No, they're not going to stay stick legs like that. I'm going to go ahead and fill this in. So a small little rectangle down here, kind of getting tapered at the bottom. And then a little bit of white paint right down the center and then on this side also. If you mess it up at all, you can always grab some of that gray and kind of clean it up. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? Watch this. I'm going to take some of that gray paint, some of that teal paint. I'm going to make just a couple lines behind her. And then I'm going to grab some of that white and that pink and add some of that towards the top of this. It looks like they've got some reflections going on in the water. Perfect. Let's go ahead and grab some of that dark pink. I'm going to have her one arm kind of coming out like this. She's going to be holding on to the adult's hand. So I'm kind of imagining this being like a mother-daughter scenario. Maybe a daughter-grandmother kind of thing. You can always edit the clothes if you want to change your genders, or you can keep it how I have it. Totally up to you. I'm going to grab a little bit of that teal and add it to her shirt just to kind of bring it together. And maybe even some of that dark right down here at the bottom, like maybe a little line at the base to kind of bring that dark red in also. All right, let's move on to our adult. So I'm going to make the woman next to her have a black skirt. So I'm going to go right down here with a black skirt. Her waist is going to be just about shoulder height of the little girl. I'm going to give her some white stockings, and then I'll put some little booties on the bottom. I'm going to give her a light pink top, so she's going to be same type of shape. And I'll have her arm kind of coming down and then over. I'm going to give her a dark pink umbrella. And I'm going to make hers a little bit more aggressive of some curves. So all I'm doing is making a little curved line there. And then I'll have it kind of bump over and up. Take some of that white paint over here and start to blend these colors a little bit on the top. I'll take some of that teal again on this back side just to give it that little bit of a darker area. Right up here, I'm just going to take that pink and just kind of connect it up to where my umbrella is. I could take that white paint and again give her a small highlight on one side. And that dark color over here on this side. I think I'm going to give her a nice clean white felt right here through the middle. I could probably do that with both of them. Give them both little nice clean white belts. All right, as that dries a little bit, let's go ahead and talk about our flowers. You can make your flowers any color you want, but right now I've got a whole bunch of flowers blooming that look a lot like cherry blossoms. So I'm going to take the back side of a pencil and I'm going to dip it in both white and pink, okay? So I dipped it in white first and then pink. Then I can go right on here and I could just kind of drop like 4 or 5 little dots, okay? And then I'm going to use a paintbrush and I'm going to take that dark color and just kind of put it right in the center. Actually, I think I might want to use the light color. I thought I'd want the dark, but now I kind of like the light. I might mix them together. So I'm going to go ahead and add in a bunch of these flowers just to kind of cheer up this dreary day that these girls are having walking in the rain. Now that our trees are done, I think what I'm going to do is take a little bit of the skirt color and I'm going to kind of make their skirts look like they're blowing in the wind. So I'm going to take them and I am going to add a little bit of a wave to the bottom and kind of have one end flipped out. I'm also going to make the rain follow that direction. I was really trying to think about why they were looking kind of frumpy and I think that might be the reason why. So I'm just going to add a little bit of an angle to these skirts. All right, let's talk about some finishing touches here. So on my umbrellas, I'm going to water down my black paint pretty good. I want some really thin lines. I like to make my lines, my skinny lines with my number 6 round brush. Other people like to get skinnier brushes, but if you have a very fine hand, it'll work. And I'm just going to take these lines and kind of make a couple of lines on my umbrella. You can even add the little topper to the umbrella up here. And I can use the back of my brush and add small dots at the base. And you can make your dots any color you want. I'm choosing this dark pink for this one. I might do teal for the moms, but you can kind of play with that and see what you want to do with it. I'm also going to wash my brush off really good and grab some white paint and work on some highlights in some areas. I always like to add my highlights last. But with some white paint on my number 6 round brush, I can go in and I can add some really solid highlights on parts of my umbrella, maybe like the top and a couple of these curves. I can add some good highlights on the skirts as well, maybe even the shirts. I'm going to use some black paint right behind the mom and make a couple lines for her skirt. And of course, I'm going to switch over to that pink, that dark pink for her umbrella. Maybe a couple of slightly lighter highlights just kind of coming down off the back of the dresses. Maybe showing some creases in the dresses. Same thing with the shirts. I can add just a little bit on the shirts. And then as far as my rain goes, I'm going to use white paint, and I'm going to use my my number 2 round brush. If you don't have a teeny tiny brush, you can always use your number 6 brush, but make sure that you are only using the very tippy top of the bristles. So like I said, I'm going to make some of my rain just kind of go down. And I do want it to go at that angle. I want it to look like they are having a little bit of rain going on. And I'm also going to add some zigzag lines of white on my ground to show that there's some rain on the ground as well. Now, when you're putting your raindrops on here, you do want to make sure that you are not having them be super confined and regular. You want to make sure that they're all different lengths, so make some long ones, make some short ones, but you do want them all going the same direction. So you have to decide if you want them going down or at an angle like I'm doing. That is 100% preference. But have fun with those lines and let them kind of be free-flowing and fun. And I'm going to take a little bit of pink and white on my brush, on the tip of my number 6 round brush. And I'm going to put just a couple of dots around the bottom of the tree, as maybe some of those flowers have fallen in the wind. Also going to grab a little bit of that black paint. I feel like the bottoms of my umbrellas are kind of getting lost, so I'm going to do a skinny little outline along the bottom of my umbrella marks. Oh, there we go. All right, and remember, when you're finished, you need to find a color that's going to show up well on your canvas and sign your name. I always put my initials in the bottom right corner. Now, I never get to see what you're painting at home unless you take a picture of it and post it to my Facebook page, Painting with a Purpose. Make sure that you like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Painting with a Purpose, so you are kept up to date on all of my tutorials. And remember, as always, stay kind, stay creative, and stay safe. Have a great day, friends. Bye now.